It all started on an ordinary Tuesday morning. The sun was barely peeking over the horizon, casting golden streaks across my suburban street. I had just stepped outside, coffee in hand, ready to enjoy the calm before the chaos. That's when I noticed two men in dark suits approaching my property with an air of authority that immediately set off alarm bells. They were holding clipboards and wearing badges that looked official enough to deceive any unsuspecting neighbor, but not me. I knew better than to trust anyone blindly, especially in this neighborhood, where HOA disputes had become a sport for some overzealous individuals. "Good morning, ma'am," one of them said, his tone polite yet firm. "We need to speak with you regarding a violation of regulations." I raised an eyebrow, keeping my voice calm but assertive. "Excuse me, but I don't belong to this HOA. I've never signed any agreements with them. Who exactly are you?" The men exchanged a brief glance before one replied, "We are officers appointed by the HOA board. You are required to comply or face consequences." I had heard enough. These were not real officers. Their so-called authority reeked of desperation, and I knew I had to play along carefully. "Very well," I said, setting my coffee down. "If you're insisting, I'll cooperate fully. But I must inform you that I am a licensed attorney and currently hold the position of Attorney General. Any misconduct on your part will be addressed legally." The reaction on their faces was priceless. Shock, confusion, panic. I could practically see the wheels turning in their heads as they tried to figure out if I was bluffing. They weren't prepared for this, and I intended to let them believe they were in control for now. They stepped onto my property anyway, waving their clipboards as if that would intimidate me. "Ma'am, we are authorized to issue citations and enforce penalties. Resistance may result in arrest." I chuckled softly, my mind already racing with possibilities. "Arrest? Oh please. Go ahead. You can arrest me if you dare. But let me remind you, making false arrests is a serious crime." Their confidence wavered, but they tried to maintain a semblance of authority. "We have the right," one began, only to be interrupted by my calm, unwavering gaze. "You have no right," I said firmly. "You are impersonating law enforcement. If you touch me, if you even think about detaining me, you will be in violation of multiple state laws. And as Attorney General, I assure you, you won't get away with it." The tension was electric. I could see the fear in their eyes, but they weren't ready to retreat yet. One of them cleared his throat, attempting to salvage the situation. We were just doing our job. Please cooperate, ma'am. It will be easier if you comply." I smiled, deciding it was time to escalate the game. "All right," I said, stepping aside and gesturing grandly as if to allow them to act. "Go ahead, arrest me. Take me in. But remember, every word you speak, every action you take, is being recorded and will be used against you." The two men exchanged another glance, panic evident now. They hesitated, unsure how far they could push this without legal consequences. One of them finally muttered, Maybe we should call someone." "That's a good idea," I replied, my tone honeyed but lethal. "Call the real authorities. Because these badges and clipboards you're holding, they mean absolutely nothing. But don't worry, I'll be right here to make sure you are held accountable for impersonation, harassment, and false arrest." By now, a small crowd had gathered, neighbors peeking out of their windows, curious about the confrontation. I could see the whispers spreading. Who are these men? And why is she letting them do this? Little did they know, this was all part of a master plan. The men, clearly realizing they were in over their heads, attempted one last feeble tactic. "Maybe we can resolve this quietly." One stammered, but the other looked at him with desperation. "We can't. She knows." I stepped forward, lowering my voice to a commanding whisper. "You will step off my property immediately. If you value your freedom, you will leave now. Otherwise, I assure you, the consequences will be severe." And then it happened. They bolted. Clipboards, papers, and all. I watched as they retreated down the street, muttering frantic excuses. I smiled to myself, satisfied, but I knew the battle wasn't over. HOA boards, especially ones with a history of overreach, don't simply give up. Sure enough, the next week, I received a formal letter, dripping with legal jargon and threats of fines. They cited imaginary violations, arbitrary deadlines, and nonsensical rules that supposedly gave them authority over my property. It was laughable, really, if it weren't so dangerously audacious. I knew exactly how to respond. One drafted a scathing letter, citing every law they had violated, every overreach they had attempted, and, of course, my position as Attorney General. I sent it via certified mail, ensuring they couldn't claim ignorance. The letter detailed that any further attempts to enforce false authority would result in criminal charges, civil lawsuits, and personal liability for each board member. They ignored the letter. Typical. So, I escalated. I filed a formal complaint with the state attorney's office, detailing their repeated attempts to impersonate law enforcement and intimidate residents. I even included the video footage from my security cameras, showing them strutting around my property like they owned the place. Weeks passed, and tensions escalated. The HOA became increasingly desperate, trying to rally neighbors to their cause with misleading claims about my alleged violations. I attended their meetings, calmly dismantling each accusation with facts, evidence, and legal precedent. The room grew tense every time I spoke. The members who had once laughed behind closed doors now avoided eye contact, realizing they were no match for someone who understood the land, wielded it as both shield and sword. Finally, the moment of reckoning came. A local judge, who had been hearing my filings, summoned the HOA board to court. The hearing was tense, packed with spectators eager to see the showdown. I stood at the front, composed, professional, but ready to unleash the full force of the law. The board members shuffled nervously, their previous confidence nowhere to be seen. Your Honor, I began, my voice steady. These individuals have repeatedly violated multiple laws, including impersonating law enforcement officers, harassment, and attempts at unlawful seizure. I request that the court hold them accountable and nullify all so-called violations they have attempted to impose. The judge, a stern but fair woman, reviewed the evidence, the letters, the videos, the sworn statements from neighbors, and my official credentials. She raised an eyebrow at the audacity of the HOA board, who had clearly underestimated me. It appears, she said slowly, that the defendants have acted beyond their legal authority. I find in favor of the plaintiff. All HOA claims against her are dismissed, and any future attempts at enforcement without legal authority will result in contempt of court charges. The relief in the room was palpable. Neighbors whispered congratulations, and I felt a sense of vindication, not just for myself, but for every person who had ever been bullied or harassed by overzealous HOA boards. After the hearing, I returned home, exhausted but triumphant. I knew this wasn't just a personal victory, it was a message. No one, no matter how small or seemingly powerful, could abuse authority unchecked, not when the law was on your side. And in my case, the law wasn't just a set of rules, it was a shield, a sword, and a warning to anyone who thought they could intimidate me or my neighbors. Over the following months, the board underwent a series of reforms, with new members elected and proper procedures put in place. My story spread throughout the community, inspiring others to stand up against petty tyranny. The fake officers, they never returned. Rumors suggested they quietly resigned, never to be seen in public service again. As for me, I continued my work as Attorney General, but I never forgot the thrill of that morning, the morning I let fake officers arrest me, only to reveal that their biggest mistake was underestimating me. The coffee, the calm demeanor, the legal knowledge, it all played a part in a perfect plan. And when I poured myself a fresh cup that evening, I couldn't help but smile. Justice had been served, and it had tasted sweeter than I could have imagined. From that day forward, whenever someone underestimated me, I remembered that moment, standing on my property, facing so-called authority with nothing but truth, law, and confidence. And every time, I reminded myself and others, no one has the right to bully, intimidate, or enforce power without accountability. Because even in the face of fake badges and empty threats, the Landos who uphold it always prevail.